He gained experience in patient advocacy, peer support and research through his role of the Neurological Support Organisation before founding FND Ireland in 2023. Eamon is an active HSE patient partner and is a member of the National Neurorehabilitation Workstream groups and an NAI, Neurological Alliance of Ireland board member.
How FND Ireland was founded. So the first thing would be I got involved with Dystonia Ireland. So I got a bit of experience in patient advocacy there. Rachel has already mentioned the Neurology Support Centre in Sligo, where I got involved again and set up a patient advocacy committee and became chair of the board of the centre for a number of years. And then I got involved with a global FND charity. And all them kind of little stepping stones gave me the confidence, I suppose, to say we need to do something in relation to a dedicated organisation in Ireland. And that lived experience that I could bring to the HSE, patient partnership or advocacy, people said, yeah, that's good to know. And even healthcare professionals, just to, I suppose, tell a journey in a way that's balanced, because we have a lot of negativity around FND and well-founded, some of it. And then I suppose the big thing I just want to highlight is, I suppose, some of this is probably a bit by chance. Because when I moved back to Leitrim, which would have been end of 2018, I unfortunately had to give up my career as an engineer, so I did a little project to build my own house. And after that, I kind of got involved a little bit in disability advocacy and accessibility. But by chance, at the end of 21, this would have been, I saw an article in my local newspaper, the Leitrim Observer online, about a BT Young Scientist exhibition project that was being done by a second level student in a Leitrim school. And that second level student, her name is Niamh, and Niamh is the daughter of one of her co-founders, Catherine. So what happened was, when I saw this article, I phoned the school and I said, would it be okay to reach out to the mum? And the mum was Catherine. So, you know what I mean, the chances of an article in somewhere quite small like Leitrim on FND would be relatively rare. So it just goes to show some of this is to chance as well. So I'm going the wrong way on this. The original team, so I know people, you know, say Eamon founded FND Ireland, and I know I'm the founder, but I have two co-founders. And without the support of Catherine and Aoife, FND Ireland would not have been founded. Because one, from a practical point of view, you needed 3 directors to set up a not-for-profit company. And the other thing, we need to bridge that divide between the patient voice and the healthcare professional. And Aoife gladly came on board to, you know, give that link to the professions. So just a little bit, I suppose, in relation to FND Ireland. As noted before, we're set up as a company limited by guarantee in 2023. We launched only in April of last year, 2024, so we're only a year and a half old. We're only registered as a charity in March of this year. So our mission and vision. Our mission is to advocate for better awareness and clinical advancements, promote research and provide support to those living with FND. And a number of our healthcare professionals have touched on the importance of both the awareness, the clinical, the education, the research. And our vision then is a society that understands FND, where those living with FND experience a better quality of life. Because that quality of life is so important. It's not about, and I think it was Miriam mentioned, I'd be the same if there was a drug tomorrow that cured, in brackets, my FND, I would gladly take it. But the reality is there isn't. And we know with the mechanisms of FND, the chances of that are very unlikely, because medication, as Aoife said, isn't an avenue typically for FND. So a little bit just in relation to our current team. We've got around 25 volunteers. So we've got 10 lived experience volunteers on our board or committee. And I'm very passionate about the lived experience voice, be it that a family member or a carer that supports someone with FND or someone themselves that lives with the condition. We've got 10 healthcare professionals in board or committee roles. which I'm very grateful for, to have that scope to connect, and we're constantly growing, if you want to call the numbers that are involved. And we've got 3 research professionals on our committees and then 2 professionals in finance and government. I suppose the reality is that I want to share is that we're an entirely voluntary organisation still at the moment. So I look after the day-to-day on a voluntary basis, probably every day of the week, because most people give out to me that I need to take a day off. And we probably have a handful of volunteers that would be active day-to-day in relation to supporting me. But we've a wider support base of volunteers, and I'll say that's grown. Oh, sorry, I keep going backwards. So we need to move FND Ireland to a staff-based organisation rather than just a volunteer-run organisation. So the way I suppose I describe it is that my vision would be is that we've got an organisation that has a volunteer board for governance overnight strategy, and then we link in with a staff team that would run the organisation who would be supported by volunteers. So at the moment we're recruiting our first staff, which is an executive director, and we just completed the interview stage, so we'll be making an announcement on that shortly. But the reality is that we do need 2 more staff members right away just to stand still, and that's in administration and communications and community outreach. And the big challenge is funding. So when FND Ireland was launched in April of last year, for the first year practically till March of this year, I funded FND Ireland myself with a loan. And it's a small loan, I'm not rich. So I literally was going round to venues, be it libraries, you know what I mean, trying to get this for free, that for free, just to connect with people. We got a small grant from Leitrim Development Company because our registered address is in Leitrim. We've no direct government funding, and one frustration I had last year was, which I put a lot of work into, was an unsuccessful application in the Rethink Disability Fund. And this is a challenge when you start a new organisation. You need to show evidence of success of getting grants and how you use them. But it's a bit of a chicken and egg. If you can't get a grant, how do you show how you use it? And this Rethink Disability Fund was all focused on the basis that you would be successful in particular for ventures that hadn't been done before. And we basically looked at peer support with training peer support volunteers, something that had never been done in Ireland, and we still didn't even get to the interview stage. So obviously I was a bit frustrated on that, but you have to move on. So this year I still had to give a director's loan initially. We got some small grants again, and we got a small amount from the HSC lot of funding, under 10,000, to help with our peer support training. But fundraising has been the big thing that has enabled us to potentially go and recruit the first staff member. And I'll share a little bit about our fundraising and awareness later, but we can't have an expectation that FND Ireland can be funded just by fundraising. So what we need to move is that we're going to have direct government support, and be that through being a Section 39 or a HSC support organisation. There's what we call national funding for charities or the voluntary sector to FUBL, which unfortunately has been delayed. But we need to get a system of what we call direct funding and, I suppose, indirect funding to really move forward. So I just wanted to show a little chart. And I know the figures are probably too small to see from the back of the room, but this chart, which I did a version at our anniversary back in April, and it has changed in the numbers, but the percentages are very similar. So what it shows there is that we had 438 people contact FND Ireland, and that's just through our website, because we don't have a phone line. We do have some social media channels, but I'm just talking about the contact us through the website over the last 18 months. So that's an average of 6 persons per week. But that's an average, that's grown. So in September, just through our website, and I mean the 6 persons per week are 6 new people. These are just new people, not repeat contacts. That's grown to over 10 people per week in September. So every month the numbers contacting us are growing. So I'll be honest, I'm overwhelmed, and I just want to apologise if there's anyone here in the audience today that has sent in through the website in the last 2 weeks and I haven't got back to you with the conference. I will. So the other thing that's very interesting in this is obviously we've got about a quarter which are family members or carers supporting those with FND, but we've got over 10% of healthcare professionals contacting us. And the majority of those healthcare professionals contacting us are not to, I suppose, provide support to us. They're actually looking for us to direct them to healthcare professionals who are, as they call, expert in FND. So this could be psychologists, physios, etc. And then we have a proportion, obviously, of those that are there to help and volunteer with us. The one figure that has increased is the 10% since we did this a year ago of other. And we are getting, I suppose, a little bit of a worrying trend, I'd call it, where we've got some people contact us who have not been diagnosed with FND, but their GP basically has told them that their blood test results are normal, everything's fine, and to contact FND Ireland. And I said, well, wait now. I said, FND Ireland doesn't provide a medical service. So that's one thing I just want to highlight in just the room, is we don't have a referral process on to IFA. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? We're completely independent as an organisation to the HSE, and we just provide support. So, you know, there's challenges there. So who contacts us? And I know you're not going to see all this detail, but I just wanted just to show is we've people contact us from every single county in the island of Ireland, not just the Republic of Ireland. Now, we redirect those to contacts from Northern Ireland to FND Matters in I, who's a charity in Northern Ireland that Jeanette and Frida founded back in 2018, so well ahead of us. But I suppose just to highlight, Dublin, obviously, as you can see here, is quite high at 139 in relation to people contacting us, which going on population you expect, you know what I mean, there's going to be a higher percentage, followed by Cork. But the interesting thing there is, if I pick out Donegal, we could see once we set up our peer support meeting in Donegal, the spike, you know what I mean, let's say, in relation to the number of people. So this has been consistent, the same in Galway. You know what I mean, where we moved to, and Cork, when we moved to provide peer support, awareness grew and the numbers then increased. So that's important just to get the message out, even if we are a bit overwhelmed at the moment. So what we do, I'm just going to run very quickly through because telling my story has cost me 5 minutes some time, I see here. So support. So we've got a closed Facebook online peer support group with nearly 500 members. To be honest, I'm not sure if a Facebook group is the right place to have connections for those with FND. My preference is in-person peer support, and I learned that through the Neurology Support Centre. In-person peer support, the reason we did that was, rather than go online, I wanted to get round and meet people and get people to meet themselves. So we run peer support meetings in 7 locations. Leitrim, obviously the home location, the original one where people come from all around Ireland to, back in June of last year. Galway, Dublin, Kildare, Cork, Louth and Donegal. And we've got more frequent meetings in some of them because we've got some funding to train in your peer support facilitators, and others, they're only about once a quarter. But so we've had 40 meetings since we started last June, and over 200 different people have attended. Some of them have attended multiple times, but over 200 people have attended our peer support meetings. And I was going to put in a few quotes here, but the one common thing is, with people coming to our peer support, is that they do not feel alone. Because, as has been said many times, for a condition that's so common, when I got diagnosed in London, I thought this was the rarest condition in the world, because I never heard about it, like most people. And it wasn't until I started looking up and they said this is common, but why do we not have supports or an organisation, etc., etc. So we want to increase our peer support meetings, so we need to get to the southeast, which we're working on. I do one-to-one Zooms that I did originally with Rachel and when her sister contacted, because we don't have a phone line. And we are going to look at online peer support meetings because there's certain, I suppose, particular cohorts in relation to family members in particular. So it could be parents of teenagers, that we get them together, because a lot of the time with in-person peer support, you may have a case that a parent says, is there going to be more parents there? And I can't really know, you know what I mean, to the last few days. So we have more to work on in relation to that. I'm just going back. That's a photo from our Leitrim peer support meeting, and that's a photo from our other 6 meetings. And I suppose the other thing just to show there is that FND can affect anyone of any age, but we do know, and we probably haven't even got the reach out, that this is a young person's condition. You know, those that may be like myself, the wrong side of 50, probably had the condition in their 30s. You know what I mean? That's the reality. So it just gives a sample there of all the people that's joined us. So advocacy. This is the passion that I do every day of the week. And I suppose the important thing with FND Ireland, just to point out, is that we advocate for general issues. We can't advocate for individuals. One, we don't have the resources, but two, how long is a piece of string when you start? There is advocacy services in the country that you can approach, government supported for those with individuals. So it's to try to get that broader support. So the big thing is to lobby government and the HSE to get the dedicated FND services, pathways and supports, which the healthcare professionals have shared earlier. And we had 2 events in Leinster House for FND Awareness Month, which is April. Last year, that's a photo from our first event, and we gave the first ever presentation in FND in the AV room to around 30 Oireachtas members, and we had another 30 odd, mostly different members there this April. So it's just letting the politicians, if you want to call it, know about FND. And the other thing then is partnership, because co-design, like, I get as frustrated as anyone why we're not making progress quick enough. And I share this to our committee the whole time that I worked in the private sector for 25 years, and I can't understand why it's taken so long to get these pathways. But I understand. I've been there in a few years. And I personally believe it's better to be in Leinster House meeting politicians and ministers than to be outside the gates of it with placards or marching. You know what I mean? That's my approach, you know what I mean? Because when you meet decision makers, you've got a chance to make change. So I'm going to skip over these very quickly because they've been done already. We have the same map that Aoife had there in relation to the FND clinic in St James's. But what I just want to highlight there, we were successful in the initial funding for the 3 team members, but that initial funding is only a drop in the ocean to the full team that Aoife requires and the further teams we need. Gone backwards again. So the pathway, which was discussed earlier, and the one thing that wasn't touched on is a paediatric FND clinic. We think this is going to be very important in the Children's Hospital because there's so many mums and dads or those to support those with FND contacting us. So the neurology programme, this is just from last year, just to highlight how common FND is, so it's on their radar. And also just want to thank many of the people in the room here who would have raised FND with their local politician, because FND, as you can see from this list of conditions there, was one of the conditions that had the most what we call parliamentary questions raised in the Dáil last year. And we just have to keep at it. So I'm conscious now I'm running out of time, well, let's speed up. Awareness. So to foster understanding of FND with health and social care professionals, and Aoife mentioned about the FND study day, which Aoife and Owen are going to be working on early next year, which will be led by healthcare professionals, but will be supported by FND Ireland. So there'll be a patient lived experience element of that as well. Awareness of FND with other support organisations, that's a photo there, myself and Rachel at the Neurology Support Centre event for Brain Awareness Week earlier this year, where we had different organisations, including the Northwest MS Therapy Centre, Parkinson's Ireland Regional Branch, Epilepsy Ireland Regional Branch, etc., all there. So it was good just to share the FND on their radar as well. A little bit in relation to awareness through the arts. One area we need to work on but just don't have the resources, which is so important, Miriam has highlighted, is awareness of FND in education and workplaces, particularly education. I've been contacted by, and I think there may be 1 or 2 of them in the audience today, but in the last 3 weeks, 4 different schools asking can we provide awareness of FND where they've got teachers or SNAs with young students living with FND. Collaborations, so Owen will be given a talk on FND and the link with FND and migraine later this year, and also too I'll be giving a talk at a Future Neuro event in Galway in November. And finally, lived experience stories, we'll get that on our website hopefully soon, just to share not just mine but many people's challenges of living with FND. So this is just a quick photo of some extracts from different paper or radio articles, you know what I mean, let's say, for all the people, you know what I mean, that have shared their FND story, and we've got many more that are on that. So just on fundraising, I just want to do a quick thank you to those that supported our 5K for FND fundraiser, which is our first fundraiser in April of last year. We had 14 teams in it, and hopefully this April, coming next year, 26, we'll have a bigger team. I just want to thank Kiva, who is here today because I spot her, in relation to the Team West event that was done in Crowpatrick. Also to Trish and her son John, who did a cycle between Donegal and Longford. We have got Glenfell, who did a pitch and putt. Keith, one of their members there, lives with FND. Sarah, two of her friends, of Sarah, did the mini marathon in the summer. And we've got Caroline, our FND champion, who does many marathons, doing the Dublin Marathon for us is it next weekend? So, you know what I mean, it all helps to raise awareness. So I just want to quickly, just the REST project. And the REST project is a project in relation to arts and FND, and unfortunately our awareness ambassador Jane couldn't be here today because she's away in her professional career as a violinist, but it's a project bringing FND to the arts. That's it. She'll talk far better on it, but it's just shedding light on FND and her journey and bringing it into the arts. So information is so important, and reliable information, because this is the thing, is what I found it. When I went to Google FND in the early stages, you will actually find out nearly anything you want about FND in Google to the way you think it is. You'll get any slant, any angle, but many of them are not right, you know what I mean? So it's getting reliable information. So obviously we've got the website fnd.ie, our Vice newsletter, and we've got our first information leaflet, which is just hot off the press yesterday evening, which I haven't even read in print. But at least it'll give something, I think, for people to feel physically, you know, rather than just see a website. So again, we're very happy if there's any healthcare professionals would like some of those leaflets. We've got a box outside with bundles, and I have more in the Jeep if need be, and signposting of information. I know I'm going over time, but I'll fasten up. Will you give me 5 minutes?
5?
Because I have to get the NAA findings done. So research, which is the NAA findings, so I'm on the last lap, but I'll skip through these very quickly. But I think research is a massive area that we need to improve in Ireland. There's just an example, I suppose, of one research project with pain and FND, and then we've got Daniel, should be here today, who's basically taken up our research liaison role, and we have Derbla, who's volunteered and who did that in the past. So it's trying to get that to another level. So the patient survey, and I just want to run through very quickly a few pie charts. This survey was done by the Neurological Alliance of Ireland last year, over a number of months from the summer to autumn, and it was the first time there was a patient survey done for all neurological conditions. And I know there's many people in the room that completed it. But what I want just to highlight out of it is that FND was the joint second most common condition reported by adults in the survey, and the third joint most common condition in those under 18. This is a pie chart of all the conditions that people note in that adult survey that exist with FND. So there's actually 21 different neurological conditions in there. The interesting thing out of this, migraine was the highest. So over 1/3 of adults diagnosed with FND had at least one other neurological condition in this survey. The one that's missing out, which surprised, was epilepsy, because I've met many people with that dual diagnosis, so that was a wee bit surprising. I just want to highlight quickly the age profile of adults with FND from this survey. So as you can see there, orange is the FND, green is the average survey in the adults, and you can see how high the orange is for the younger ages. So what you had is 83% of adults under 55 years of age had FND, compared to only 57% of the average neurological condition, because like the likes of Parkinson's is a more later life condition. And this feeds on to the next one, which is where adults had to stop working. And sorry, the colours are the wrong way around. So green is FND this time, not a trick. 69, so 70% of those had to stop working due to their FND, where the average neurological condition was under 50%. Now, this is just one I just want to share, because the old perception was that the mental health, element of FND was maybe the trigger for your FND. And I just want to highlight here is that even though FND at 43% had a higher number of people who reported to have a mental health condition along with their FND, in the average, the overall of all adults, 32% said. So I think, as Sarah mentioned, neuropsychology support is so important for those with any neurological condition. Very quickly here, it's just the green to look at. On my right, and I'm not sure which way on the screen, but the bigger green, basically at 83%, is showing the numbers of people who feel unsupported by the healthcare system, who have FND, where you can see 50% odd of those who have an average neurological condition feel unsupported. So you can see the difference there. This one I just want to highlight again, because we talked about neurorehabilitation services and MDT, multidisciplinary. So 25% of those in the overall survey reported lack of access to rehabilitation, where 67% of them was with FND reported lack of access. So we mentioned, the word was mentioned of equity by Sarah. I think it was Sarah, or was it Kiva? Kiva. Equity is something I do always in my advocacy, and we've got inequity in access. So I'm going to quickly finish now on this, is emergency hospital visits, because we heard the challenge in emergency departments and the education, but the problem we have is that out of those in the adult survey in the last year, 67% of them presented to A&E. So that's over 2/3 of all those whereas only just over 1/3 in the average survey. So it's 2 to 1. Finished. I just want to do a wee thank you. It'll only take a minute, Owen, right, okay? Because Owen's going to be on the wrapping up and I'll be sitting down, right, okay? So obviously I want to thank Owen for chairing the conference. I want to thank all our speakers. So Miriam and Rachel, who shared their lived experience, to Aoife, Roisin, Emma Jane, Sarah and Kiva for bringing the healthcare expertise to the stage today, to all those who helped with organising and supporting us in the conference. And I just want to mention a few names very quickly. Jeanette, who did a major amount of work, and Catherine, and also to Lillian, who's here, in relation to checking documents. And this is what I say in relation to volunteering. It's not the people front of house, it's the people who do them jobs without any recognition that I really, really value. The last two people pretty much is we've got our volunteers on the day. So along with Jeanette and Catherine, we've got Jackie, Caris, Annette and Dervla. We've got Garrett and his team here from Cahir Media, who not only are recording the conference here on the day, but have done massive amount of work for us on the website, the graphics, the information leaflets, all on a voluntary basis. And finally, yeah, they definitely deserve a clap. Yeah. And finally, I just want to thank the hotel for providing us with the service on the day, but most importantly to all the people that attended here today, to give yourself a round of applause, because without you, we wouldn't have event.